tailor to the company, and show us how do you think you can fit into the organization as a whole, basically.
Cover letter is also an opportunity for you to expand a little further on something that you may have included in your resume. So maybe you had a capstone project or something along those lines in your resume and you're really proud of it. You can also highlight that in your cover letter and explain how working on that project you were able to manage your time appropriately. And when Julie said competency, she's talking about those skills such as time management, problem solving, those kinds of skills is what she's referring to, where oftentimes you're not going to put in your resume, I have problem solving skills, I have time management. That's your opportunity in your cover letter to really show that.
What I like to see in a cover letter is understanding what your long-term aspirations are. So maybe you have a great idea what you want to do post-grad, or maybe you have a flavor of an idea of what you want to do, but understanding what your long-term objective is helps us assess your fit within our organization today and beyond graduation.
Good, thank you very much. In our lessons and with the meetings, the one-on-ones that you've had, we've been very consistent with communicating how you need to be original and you need to stand out. Even during this past semester, many students submitted to Blackboard the same first paragraph of that cover letter. That was the example we provided to you in the Transform Manual. Hopefully, from the responses you just heard, you realize that that's a great way to be disqualified from being a candidate to get an interview, because they want to get a taste for who you are and what you have to offer and identify your genuine interest in wanting to work for them. So great advice. Thank you, panelists. Okay, let's switch gears to interviews. Let's see. What advice for our co-op students do you have in regards to interviewing? What do you look for in an interview candidate? How do you identify who's going to be invited for an interview?
So through the resume screening process?
Yes.
So kind of echoing the points from a cover letter and resume perspective, we want to understand that you know what Windsor Mold Group is. We're not like the mold in your ceiling, so don't lead with that. We want to see that you've actually done some research on the company, understand there's 70 mold shops in the city. Why Windsor Mold? Why not Integrity? Why not Omega? We want to understand that you want to be a part of our business, whether that's a short-term or a long-term thing. And we want to make sure that you've actually reviewed the job description. The words that are used in the job description are used deliberately. So I encourage you to extract those words and implant them into your resume and cover letter, because I really like those words, and that's why they're in the job description. So those are the buzzwords that I'm going to be looking for. So I encourage you to customize your resume and customize your cover letter based on that specific JD that you're reviewing.
I mean, talking about the resume specifically, just looking for, granted your, co-op students, first semester co-op students, you may not have any job experience, which is fine. It doesn't, at this point, it doesn't necessarily matter. I think it's just showing that, if you've worked on side projects, or if you've worked on, like talking from IT specifically, if you've worked on side projects, or even projects through university, you can kind of highlight that and show us that, you do have an appetite for self-learning, for kind of growing your skills in that manner. And that's kind of what we look for. Like, look for someone that is looking to learn and being genuine about it. And it's...
I know we definitely look for somebody who's fairly well-rounded. So we are looking for, if you've had that first job, then we're looking kind of what is that first job, how long were you there for? Somebody who's there for 2 weeks, kind of question why. But we're looking for, having that first job, and it doesn't necessarily matter where it's at, but having a bit of work experience helps, but again, it's not a requirement. But also having those other areas, the volunteer work, the clubs at the university. We really look for that. I love the students that are coming in. I find that when they come in, when they're doing the interview, then they have a lot more ability to provide answers because they can tap into a variety of those areas. So those students who are fairly well-rounded, I find do well in the interview process.
You summed it up for me, so that's great.
So we work one-on-one with patients all day, so if you're going to apply at my office, you're going to have developed skills showing that you like to work with people. coaching, teaching swimming lessons, NLS, first aid, CPR, something to show me that you like working with people and you are actively working on developing your skills. If you don't have experience, I probably wouldn't even look at you. If you haven't shown some kind of initiative, volunteering, something, I probably wouldn't, I would just pass your on your resume. Yeah, I think that's.
Thank you. Obviously, a lot of the panelists have summarized my answer. Maybe in addition, I would just add in the ability to be not overwhelmed in a clinic setting for us is very important. So can you still be positive, energetic, do your job, and not feel overwhelmed in a clinic setting? Nothing. The patient can sense when someone's overwhelmed. You want to make sure the patient has good satisfaction when you leave the clinic. So that's a skill in itself to manage your own stress levels, not only within yourself but in a team setting.
Very true. Thanks for sharing. You guys all just wrapped up your mock interviews with us, where you practiced. I was interviewing predominantly with my Mac students. Go Mac. With my Macs. All right. And one of the consistencies that I saw was the lack of preparedness. Now, I recognize that it was a mock, and you know it's just Tony. However, the objective was to apply for a position, which was a real posting that we use as practice, but preparation is key. So I want to propose to the panel, what advice can you give to our students to best prepare for that time that they're going to have for you, the work they need to do before they arrive? For the interview, yes, the interview.
You know, basically you should do the research on the company that you're applying for. It's not a bad idea to maybe, if you have the ability to talk to past workers who've worked there, so they maybe give you some insight on maybe what they're looking for, the culture. So I always find that I can assist somebody who has no experience working in that setting. I find that goes long ways. I believe in low-risk training, so don't be afraid to use your own family members, your brother, your sister, or friends to ask you questions. Maybe that will give you good feedback. Nothing beats low-risk training. And I'm a big believer of being yourself. Be very authentic, because we're going to find out anyways over time.
I would say be prepared to follow up your answers with examples. I think some people have mentioned before, if you say you're a good problem solver, give lots of examples on how you do that. That would really help.
Okay, so Inspire Hub has a completely different hiring process. First and foremost, computer science grads, just because you know software and it's like the knowledge economy and everybody wants you, competition is fierce. And there are great companies to work for, and then there are companies that are going to stick you in the back room doing stuff that are going to make you want to watch paint dry on the wall as opposed to actually code. And so you need to understand that you got to get out there and research what those companies are. My company has unlimited vacation. Yeah, we do paid auditions, okay? So the way it works is if you even get into an interview, you're special. That means everything that Tony told you did on steroids if you get into us. So that's really important. Once you get to a paid audition, we are literally paying you to do real world work, okay? So we don't do interviews with our developers because we don't care what you say, we want to watch what you do. The other thing that we do in our hiring process is we make you play a game with us, and the entire company sits and watches you doing, you know how you say you have problem solving skills? You can't get out from under Inspire Hub because we're all watching you and taking you notes on this game that sees how you solve a problem, and it's not whether or not you solve the problem, it's how you collaborate and work with your team. Once you get through all of that and you've passed your paid audition, then you have a job. And it works really great. Our team is awesome. And the reason why we know and trust and give stuff like unlimited vacation, did I mention that you can work from anywhere in the world? And my team does. So I have staff in Dublin, England, Italy, traveling. They can just go wherever sometimes. One of my developers said, can I go home for a month to China? I was like, have fun. Just remember it's 9 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. Good luck with that. He got all his work done. Totally different process, but all of you need to understand how fierce the competition is. So if you are doing mediocrity in your application and your research, you're putting yourself down at the bottom. Do that investment, do that research.
Okay, hard to follow up on that one. So in terms of kind of some interview prep, obviously I think most of the organizations are going to want you to know about the organization. And I'll tell you this now. That's our first question. Is tell me what you know about the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority. And most of the students can tell me the same, probably 3 sentences. And I hear it, the exact same canned answer every single time. And I can tell based on the look into their eyes that they've memorized it and they have no idea what it actually means. So spend a bit more time to actually understand what it means. And even don't just go to the website. I mean, you guys are on social media all the time. We have a ton of social media. Right now, my picture's being tweeted out probably by our organization. So spend time, find out what's the latest and things that we're talking about from the organization. So you can actually talk to that when you come into the interview and show that interest. That will help set you apart from some of the other individuals. The other thing is I think probably some of the other members will also do a little bit different, is the competency-based interviews. We do that. So there is hundreds of questions. If you Google it, spend some time kind of researching and practicing some of those.
Something to do with a bridge, right? Are you hiring? Unlimited vacation? I would say, I'm going to steal something that Karen might say. The words are bolded or called out for a reason. So I think research on the topics that are brought up in a job description. Like if we say, okay, we use Sencha for a framework or something to that effect, then do some research on it. Be able to speak intelligently on some of the the technologies that we utilize. We do not have an unlimited vacation.
I think that's pretty rare. In terms of preparing for your interview, yes, we talked about competency, so like time management, problem solving, all those little things that you're going to see that are in the job posting. I think the best advice I could give to you is kind of build yourself a matrix. So if you know that you're going to have time management skills, I guarantee you there's going to be an interview question asking about your time management skills. If it talks about problem solving, I guarantee you there's going to be a question on problem solving. And if you're creating a matrix of maybe you've had different volunteer experience or co-op placements or work placements or summer programs, anything of that nature, you're going to create a matrix to say, what time management examples do I have within there? What problem solving do I have within there? What communication do I have within there? And then with that matrix, pick out your strongest examples for each one. So when you go into the interview, if you have different experiences, you're able to show that you're versatile, that you have different examples from each of those instead of just thinking of the most recent.
I have a little anecdote. So I did co-op interviews one time. Student walks in, hands me a USB drive, which is excellent. And I said, thank you, what is this? And he says, it's my resume. I said, well, that doesn't really help me because I don't have a computer. I was like, you really should have brought a hard copy. He's like, well, I ran out of time and, yada, yada, yada. So I had a copy of his resume, so crisis was averted. And I said, well, on your core competencies, it says your time management skills. I'm struggling to understand how you didn't have time to print your resume. So if you're really bad at time management, just keep it off your resume and I'll pray to God we forget to ask you about it. But don't put it on your resume because then you're going to be asked a question and you're going to be floundering in the water. So if you're just not good at something, omit it and hope that we just glaze through it too and you somehow get hired.
Very good. Thanks for sharing. Okay, a couple of notes I made as our panelists were speaking. I love the consistent message of go beyond the website. During the mock interviews, I'd say the vast majority, when I ask the question, what do you know about our company and why do you want to work for us? The first thing you said was, in visiting your website, well, duh, we assume you're going to go to the website. You got to go beyond that because you don't want to give the same canned response as the other candidates that they're speaking to. Prepare examples and different examples. Another consistency we observed is that there's a project you're really proud of, you incorporated it in 3 responses. They want to see that you're more than just one outcome and one accomplishment, so prepare a variety. Skill-based questions. All of those skills you claim to have and you're promoting that hopefully line up with what they're saying, have examples of how you demonstrate them. I love the last story sharing about the time management, yet didn't have time to print the resume. And then the other note I made was words matter. We start the process